Hey there and welcome back to the channel. It's Perry here and we're doing an update today, number 8 I believe, and this one is a follow-up off the dinos. And so we're going to get into the topic today of scrubbing our way to success and some of the tips that I have to share with you on how to get your reef looking clean and how to get on top of it from a maintenance standpoint. So 2, 3, 4 times a day, whatever it takes to keep the reef looking the way you see it right now is what I believe it takes until we find that butter zone, if you will. You know, that zone where everything just seems so easy and smooth, you know, just like butter. Well, that's sort of kind of the same thing of how I take the approach with the reef here, right? You know, if I have to use a battle brush to brush the rocks off daily, the overflow, power heads. I stir the sand multiple times a day with an acrylic rod that I can just quickly stir the sand bed with, scrubbing the glass down, whether it be with a scraper or just brushing it. These are the things that I feel need to happen frequently so that stuff gets put into the water column, broken down by the power heads, ultimately exported away from the reef and out of the system. Okay, so from there, we then go down into the sump region, and today we're going to drop into a little bit more information about how I'm running this system and what I'm doing under the hood, so to speak. And so we'll drop down into that here in a little bit, and we'll share some different angles of the reef, maybe a few close-ups of the corals. I've lost only 2 corals along the way. One of them was sort of gonna go anyway because it was a very finicky type deal. The other one, it just started acting weird, and when they start acting really strange, like there might be a bacterial thing going on, it's just easier for me to remove it from the system at that point, and that's what I did. So all the corals that are in there right now, I believe the first haul was 15. There's now, you know, the 13, but they're all doing well. They've adhered to the rock. They've lasted through the dinos, and now that we're clear of those, I'll talk about some strategies I use to clear them on out as well. Now, granted, we talked about the UV sterilizer. That was one application. But I then begin to use a variety of slurries. And so as we move along throughout the episodes and we begin to build this acropora shallow reef here on a nano-size scale, we are going to dive into what are these slurries I'm using, because I'm kind of opting away from a daily dosing routine, and I'm opting for like 2 slurries, maybe 3 slurries per week, and I've created 2 different types. One is for a nutrient control, more of a cleanup, post scrubbing type of deal, and then the other one is more of a feed with also bacteria being embedded, gut loaded, and then spirulina, which I have a topic going on Reef to Reef in the SPS forum on just that right now as well. So I've implemented a strategy for a couple slurries per week. That's how I'm using the bacteria method here. There are zeolites and bacteria homing media, Cyperax, in the media basket down below. As well as some active carbon from Aquaforest, and that basically makes out my filtration zone with medias and polishers, absorbers, all of those fun things to make for really beautiful water. And then basically how I'm handling the maintenance aspect of it, while I am brushing and scrubbing my way to success as far as what you see in front of you, how I'm doing water changes, the strategy is implemented below in the sump. So what I do is once a week I'm going to just do a 5-gallon water change with Aquaforest Reef salt, which is the salt I've landed on for this system for many reasons, mostly for its natural seawater values. But when I do a 5-gallon water change, I shake the filter media basket repeatedly, and whatever is in the sump at that point in time from a decay standpoint is then vacuumed out with a shop vac, a bucket top shop vac, and that removes the water from the sump. There's still a little bit left over, but it pulls out, you know, roughly 4 gallons, and then I'll take out an additional gallon to make it that 5-gallon water change. And then I just simply pour the new water right into the sump. It gives me an opportunity at that point to look over what's going on in the sump. And like I said, these medias are in there in a basket. They're passive. So outside of the protein skimmer and return pump in that basket, that's all that's in the sump. So for cleanup, it makes it so much easier for me, okay? So that's how I kind of reset weekly. So what I'm looking to do with this reef is I want to push everything away and out of the system into the overflow where it catches on a filter pad, which is over top of a sponge. Okay, the sponge is, I will not make the mistake of rinsing and replacing after fresh water or tap water, but I will leave the sponge in place, and periodically I'll just sort of squeegee it out a little bit and rinse water from the from a leftover tank water from a water change, and then I'll just put it back. And then the filter pad itself, I'm just rotating little felt pads in and out of the system and cleaning them and soaking them in tap water with a little bit of bleach, and then cleaning them off, letting them air dry, and then just put them into rotation. So I'm doing that just to export the dinos and all the crud that's being removed from the reef. Once all the crud begins to sort of eviscerate, which it's in the process of doing right now, I will then remove that interchangeable felt pad on top and just run with the sponge. And then down the line, the sponge will be removed, and I will allow everything to just freely flow down into the sump. And then again, taking that emphasis and that approach of maintenance down in the sump. So my objective here with this reef is to allow the ecosystem to build up top on the actual reef, to allow the sand bed to hold plenty of critters and sand-dwelling micro-life, all different sorts of life and inverts and so forth. And what that does is it allows it to sort of self-maintain as far as the sand and the rock goes, okay? And with the ability to take this acrylic rod, and I'm going to kind of step into the picture, so forgive me, not really prepared to show off here. But as you can see, the acrylic rod just allows me to sort of wave this and do these different patterns easily throughout the time of day and lift whatever into the water column. And you know, see, by doing so, that then lifts into the water, and it's able to be exported away from the reef. And that's the objective. That's how I've been battling dinos. And of course, UV was running. So the more frequently I did that, the more contact time the water had with whatever it needed to ultimately zap, kill, sterilize, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Anyway, that's the method I decided to use to overcome the dinos. Since I'm a fan of white light, I really try to steer away from cutting too much on the white. I did for a little bit, but ultimately the dinos did come back after our last video for 2 or 3 days, and I did not make a light adjustment. I just put the UV sterilizer back on. And so when I did, I decided to do that water change and sort of change my strategy from the zeolites running in a reactor, which I was doing. Instead, I put them passive in the media basket and sort of stacked all the media in there together. And by doing so, from a passive standpoint, whatever it was causing it to be to sort of be imbalanced and maybe propel or escalate the dinos, was rendered out by adding the UV. And then once the UV seemed to be working, then I took it back offline, and what you're seeing here is about 4 or 5 days post UV. So there's still a little bit of stuff wanting to hang out, but the light hasn't made an adjustment. I'm pretty much at the full spectrum and have been. And so when we go and do some close-ups of the corals, you're going to see, you know, why I did not want to make white light adjustments and go to just a blue spectrum only. So let's get in a little bit closer. I just stirred the sand, so you're going to see some debris flying around. Bear with me, and let's do some close-ups. Okay, so here we are on the Battle Corals Mr. Neutron. You can see that the color is pretty sharp on it. Those distinct kind of like a burgundy or maroonish type coral polyps coming off of it. Then they kind of have a little bit of a white at the tip of the polyp as they elongate out, particularly the feeder polyps. So the polyps do elongate at night as they're sweeping, looking for various different foods on the reef. So this is the, let's see if we might need to fade out a little bit. That's the Vivid's confetti right there. And the fish is kind of taking us out of focus. That's one of them staghorn damsels. Let me see if I can refocus here. Okay, I think we're back on. We'll get away, Bubba. Look, photo bomb if I've ever seen one. You guys can sort of get the picture. The polyps are definitely out and about and waving out there pretty nicely. The teal undertone in the base of the coral is absolutely beautiful. Man, I am really stoked on how this coral is looking visually, and my staghorn damsel's looking pretty happy too. Got the RMF Psychoberry right here. It looks a lot better. Some of these blues are kind of hard to pick up on. I'll have to learn a little bit more how to take photos under just LED only. T5s make it a little bit easier for me. But anyway, then you can see right up here, tenuouses, and you can see in the back corner the that beautiful red TGC Red Wing Millie right there, looking pretty. That Millie up there is kind of blended in with the rock. It looks brown in this picture, but it's more of an orangish color. It's really pretty. And let's see here. So you can see there's my purple snow. Kind of hard to look at in the camera. We'll have to pick up on some of these during the top down. That staghorn's looking beautiful, as you can see. So yeah, all in all, I really can't complain. Yeah, here's another angle for you, so we can take it into take it all into perspective, different angles and so forth. But the reef is looking really good. I'm really stoked to be able to share with you this this little nano. Finally, we're just going to make our way under the hood, and we'll show what's going on under there, and then we'll wrap this video on up. Okay, so the lighting is totally shitty here, but I think you can get the idea of what's going on down here underneath the hood. I had to make a white balance adjustment, so it's looking really amber in this photo. But there's that media basket that I was telling you about, and so I'll use this. I'm going to switch hands. Bear with me. So as you can see, I'm taking this acrylic rod here, and I'm able to take these media bags, and I'm able to lift them out. There's the zeolites, so you can see the zeos, and then there's a sponge on top of that Cyperax, and then the medias are in bags, and they sit on top of that. So everything is captured into that one basket. And like I said, I can reach down in here and just literally shake the shit out of this thing, right? And then, as you can see, that moam is released, and you can see it then goes right into the protein skimmer. So it's going to make the protein skimmer engage, and you can hear my ATOs kicking into gear. And so then that ultimately is going to find its way, into the system, which I would need to make another white light adjustment if I show you that. But trust me when I tell you that all of that stuff that's been shaken up down here, that's flying around, all of that is like mold and bacteria, decay, laden detritus, and that's going to make its way up top, and then ultimately it's going to serve as a food source. And then what doesn't make it up is some of it's going to get yanked into that protein skimmer, right? And so, that's kind of the process. And this way, I don't have to have any kind of reactors or pumps or anything additional mechanically or electronically tied into the system. No monitors, nothing like that. No Apex, nothing. You do see the doser. I'm running A and B off of it, and then those are, you can see the CA and the ALK right there, and then those are on that doser, and then they deliver right there. That's my ATO pump, and then my ATO is over here on the side of the tank, and then that's it, right? That's what's going on below. So simplification. I'm leaning more on the biological aspects of reefing and less on the technology side. And there's nothing wrong with any approach, right? I mean, look, this is kind of an old school way of doing your return. Many years ago, medias like this were used with sponges and things, all sort of in a basket, sort of like this stacking type of method. And there's zeolites. They help to rapidly remove ammonia from the system. They're also an absorber. So any kind of toxins that could have found their way in the system, they help to kind of render that, heavy metals, things of this nature, right? You also have the aspect of carbon for any type of residues or possible chemical contamination or leaching of any sort. You also have the Cyperax, which is a homing media for bacteria. So they all sort of work together, and they're in one basket, making it just real easy for me to run this system this way. Look at the skim. Regardless of the white balance setting, I think it's safe to say that is pretty much what we used to refer to as nog. And nog is that stuff that it's darker than the sweetest of southern sweet tea. Like Cuban coffee, man. This is what you're looking for. This tells you that the biological aspects are working, right? Now, because we've been dealing with dinos, I have not used a carbon source. And here's what I can tell you. If I was using a carbon source, I would probably be able to dial in the 100-to-1 ratio, and I could probably start working on nitrates. Nitrates are at 9, they went to 11, and they're probably around 13 right now, and phosphates are probably around 0.06, 0.08. See, I'm not exactly where I want to be because I've only been using bacteria. My fear right now is because there's dinos in the system, I don't want to feed the dinos by giving them a carbon source. So I've opted to use water changes, my basket media for filtration, and 2 slurries per week, both containing bacteria. One is a probiotic, sort of a building block bacteria, a food source bacteria, and then one is a nitrifying, sort of a cleanup bacteria, and that's my other slurry. So that's how I'm opting to deliver the bacteria-driven method to this system in combination with the medias as described, and making it very, very simple by offsetting a 5-gallon water change weekly to render everything out of the system from the sump. Therefore, refreshing the sump weekly. All right, that is the update number 8. It has been a long one. If you've stayed with me, thank you so much for sticking by. I know it's been a little bit lengthy, but I think some of the content was long overdue. Thanks for watching.